What happens when a heartbroken waitress gets drunk on tequila and accidentally claims the most dangerous predator on Earth as her mate? She didn't just mark a stranger. She marked King Cyrus. And now he isn't letting her go. Chapter 1. The phone buzzed in her apron pocket like a trapped hornet, stinging her thigh right through the fabric. Maya froze. A drop of cold coffee dripped from the rag in her hand onto the sticky diner counter. Drip, drip. It was the only sound in the world. She didn't want to look. Her gut twisted into a tight, sick knot. But she knew. She knew before her trembling fingers even touched the cracked screen. Today was their 2-year anniversary. Tyler was supposed to pick her up. The screen lit up with a text. "We need to talk. Actually, no. I can't do this anymore. I found my true mate. She's a model. Alpha blood. You're just you. Happy anniversary, Maya. Don't come by the apartment." The ground seemed to drop out from under her. The air left the diner. It felt like someone had punched her right in the throat. The smell of burnt toast and old grease became suffocating. She couldn't breathe. Her fingers went numb, and she dropped the rag. Splat. "Hey, table 4 needs coffee!" the manager yelled, his voice sounding like it was coming from underwater. Maya stared at the phone. Just you. 2 words. They cut deeper than any knife. She was an omega, the lowest of the low. The runt. Tyler had been her miracle, a beta who deigned to love her. Or so she thought. He didn't even have the guts to say it to her face. He did it via text, on their anniversary. Her thumb hovered over the delete button, but she couldn't do it. Tears blurred her vision, hot and stinging. Why wasn't she enough? Was it her scent? Was it because she couldn't shift into a big, scary wolf? The bell on the diner door jingled. Her friends, Sarah and Chloe, burst in. They looked too happy, too bright for the darkness, swallowing Maya's chest. "Happy anniversary," Sarah squealed, waving a tiny gift bag. Maya looked up. A sob ripped out of her throat, raw and ugly. Sarah's smile vanished. "Maya, what is it? Did you burn yourself?" Maya shook her head. She couldn't speak. She just shoved the phone at them. They read it in silence. Maya felt the shame burn her cheeks. She wasn't just heartbroken. She was humiliated. Everyone said Tyler was out of her league. Everyone said he would leave her. They had bet on it. That dirty rat," Chloe hissed, her eyes flashing. "He dumped you? For a model? He says, 'I'm just me,'" Maya whispered. The words tasted like ash. A tiny spark of anger flickered in her belly. Just her? She worked double shifts. She loved him. She cooked his meals. She warmed his bed. "You know what?" Chloe grabbed Maya's apron and untied it. "You are done. We are leaving." I have to finish my shift," Maya stammered. "No," Sarah said firmly. "You have to forget him. Tonight, we are going to the Moonlight Lounge." Maya blinked. The Moonlight Lounge? That place was for alphas. Rich people. Not for a little omega waitress with grease in her hair. She looked at the phone again. Happy anniversary. Why should she cry? Why should she be the one broken? If he wanted to treat her like trash, she would stop acting like it. "Okay," Maya said, her voice shaking but hard. "Let's go." They dragged her out into the cool night air. But Maya didn't feel the cold. She only felt the hole in her chest where her heart used to be, and a dangerous, reckless need to fill it with something else. Anything else.
The solid oak table groaned under his grip. Creak, snap. A large splinter popped off, flying across the polished room like a bullet. The 12 members of the royal council stopped talking instantly. They stared at his hand. The hand of the king. The hand that could crush a skull as easily as it crushed this wood. "Your Majesty," Elder Marcus began, his voice trembling just a little. "We only meant the lineage. It has been 300 years. You have no heir. The blood madness. It worries the people." Cyrus didn't look up. He stared at the grain of the broken wood. Eventually, he would kill them all. Not because he wanted to, but because his wolf was starving. Not for food, for violence. "The people," Cyrus said. His voice was a low rumble, like thunder trapped in a cave. "The people fear me, as they should." They kept pushing. "A queen, sire," another elder whispered. "You need a mate, to calm the beast." Cyrus laughed. It was a dark, dry sound. A mate. For him, he was the blood alpha. His soul was too dark for love. Any woman he touched would shatter. He had spent centuries alone, watching everyone he knew rot and die while he remained frozen in time. A throb of pain hit his temples. The madness. It was getting worse. The edges of his vision blurred red. His wolf, Titan, was pacing inside his mind, scratching at the walls of his skull. Let me out. Hunt. Kill. He stood up abruptly. The chair scraped loudly against the floor, a screech that made the elders flinch. I am done listening to this, Cyrus growled. But sire, the meeting is over. He walked out. The heavy doors slammed behind him with a boom that shook the palace walls. He needed noise. He needed chaos. The silence of the palace was too loud. It gave him too much time to think about the emptiness inside him. He headed for the garage. He didn't take the royal driver. He took the black sports car, the fast one. The engine roared to life, matching the growl in his chest. He needed a place where the music was loud enough to drown out his thoughts. A place where the scent of alcohol and sweat masked the smell of fear. The Moonlight Lounge. Minutes later, he was tearing down the highway. The city lights blurred into streaks of neon. He didn't want company. He wanted to sit in the dark and watch the little insects dance. A strange pulling sensation tugged at his gut. It wasn't hunger. It wasn't rage. It felt like waiting. He pulled up to the club, seeing the line of people desperate to get in, and felt it stronger. With every heartbeat, the pull got tighter. Something was in there. Or someone. He threw the keys to the valet, who looked like he might faint from terror. Cyrus didn't care. He strode past the bouncers, who bowed low. He walked into the thumping darkness of the club. The bass hit him in the chest. Thump, thump, good. It matched the pounding in his head. He made his way to the VIP section, a dark corner overlooking the dance floor. He sat down. Alone. Always alone. The wolves nearby scrambled to move away. They smelled the death on him. They gave him a wide berth. Good. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass. He scanned the crowd. Bodies moving, laughing, fake, all of it fake. Then, he saw her.
The music was so loud it vibrated in her teeth. Boom, boom, boom. Maya stared at the shot glass in her hand. It was her fifth one. Or maybe sixth. Who was counting? Not her. The room was spinning. Just a little. Like a merry-go-round with neon lights. Drink it! Chloe yelled over the music. To freedom. To not needing a man. Maya laughed. It sounded bubbly and weird. To freedom. She tossed the liquid back. It burned. Fire. It tasted like gasoline and bad decisions. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, the numbness finally hit. The hole in her chest didn't hurt as much now. It just felt fuzzy. She felt brave. She felt powerful. She wasn't just Maya the Omega anymore. She was Maya the goddess of shots. She stumbled toward the railing. She looked down at the dance floor. People were grinding, sweating, living. Why couldn't she live? Then she saw him. Up in the dark corner, the VIP section, the place where the scary people sat. There was a man there, sitting all by himself. He was big, like, really big. Even sitting down, he looked like a mountain. He was wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than the diner she worked at. He looked up. His eyes. Oh God. His eyes. They were dark, intense. The moment their eyes locked, Maya's breath hitched. He looked sad. She didn't know what scared her more, the power radiating off him, or the fact that he looked exactly how she felt inside. Lonely. Her body moved on instinct. Where are you going? Sarah grabbed her arm. I need that one. Maya slurred, pointing a shaky finger at the dark corner. Maya, no. That's the VIP. You can't go up there. The guards. I don't care, Maya whispered. She pulled her arm free. The mission was blurry. She stumbled up the stairs. The guard stepped in her way, a big, beefy guy with crossed arms. Private area, miss, he grunted. Maya narrowed her eyes. She felt a surge of liquid courage. She didn't see a threat. She just saw an obstacle. Move, she said. Or maybe she squeaked it. The man in the chair lifted a hand. One finger. The guard froze. He looked back at the man, then stepped aside. Just like that. She felt it etched in fire. A pull. A magnet in her belly dragging her forward. Maya stumbled into the VIP booth. It smelled amazing up here. Like rain and expensive wood and danger. The man watched her. He didn't move. He was terrifyingly still. She reached him. He was even more gorgeous up close. Sharp jawline, scars that looked like stories. And those eyes, watching her, like a wolf watches a rabbit. Maya didn't feel like a rabbit, though. She felt like a hunter. She didn't ask. She didn't think. As the world narrowed down to just his lap, she climbed right onto him. He went rigid, hard as stone beneath her. The music seemed to stop. She straddled him, her hands resting on his broad shoulders. He was warm, so warm. "You look lonely," she whispered, her face inches from his. His lips parted. He looked shocked. "Do you have a death wish, little one?" His voice was deep, a rumble that vibrated right between her thighs. Maya giggled. A death wish? No. She leaned closer. She smelled his neck. It was the best thing she had ever smelled. Cedar, musk, power. Her wolf stirred. It woke up from its slumber and screamed one word. "Mine." "You're mine now," she whispered. She opened her mouth. She sank her teeth into the sensitive cord of muscle where his neck met his shoulder. Chomp. She bit him. She bit the stranger in the club. A shockwave exploded through the room. Darkness swallowed her whole.
Pain. It wasn't the sharp sting of teeth-breaking skin that froze him. It was the electricity. The world stopped. The incessant pounding of the blood madness, the red noise that had screamed in his skull for decades vanished. Silence. Blissful, heavy silence washed over him like cool water. The tiny creature in his lap went limp, her head lolling against his shoulder. She had passed out cold. The music in the club cut out. The DJ had seen. Everyone had seen. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. "Your Majesty." The head of his royal guard, a massive wolf named Jax, lunged forward. His gun was drawn. He aimed it directly at the girl's small, exposed back. She attacked the king, taking the shot. "Stand down." Cyrus didn't shout. He didn't have to. His voice was a low growl that vibrated through the floorboards. Jax froze. His finger hovered over the trigger. "Sire, she bit you. That is treason. That is—" I said stand down. Cyrus looked down at her. She was tiny, fragile. Her hair was a messy halo of curls that smelled like cheap strawberry shampoo and vodka. Beneath the scent of alcohol, there was something else, something sweet, like vanilla and rain. His beast Titan surged forward in his mind, but Titan wasn't trying to kill her. Titan was curling around her mental image, purring. "Mine. Keeper. Silence bringer." Cyrus touched the wet spot on his neck. His fingers came away with a smear of blood. His blood. She had marked him. And Omega had branded the Blood Alpha. It was impossible. It was insulting. It was fascinating. Before the security team could swarm the VIP booth, Cyrus had already made his decision. He wrapped his arm around her waist and stood up, lifting her as easily as if she were made of paper. "Clear a path," he ordered. "Where are we taking her, sire?" Jax asked, holstering his weapon but eyeing the girl with suspicion. "The dungeons?" Cyrus looked down at the sleeping girl. She mumbled something in her sleep and burrowed her face into his chest, drooling slightly on his silk lapel. He felt a strange, possessive tightening in his chest. "No," Cyrus said. "Take me home. To the palace. And the girl? She comes with me. To my bed." The guards exchanged horrified looks. No one questioned the king, not if they wanted to keep their heads attached to their necks. He walked out of the club. The crowd scrambled back, creating a wide berth of terrified silence. Hundreds of eyes watched in terrified awe. Cyrus didn't care. He held her tighter. With the noise in his head gone, he wasn't about to let the cure walk away.
Sunlight. Too much sunlight. It felt like someone was driving a rusty nail directly into her left eye. Maya groaned and tried to roll over, but the sheets were tangled around her legs. Wait, sheets? Her sheets were cotton. Cheap, scratchy cotton she'd bought on sale 3 years ago. These sheets felt like water. Silk. Cool. Expensive. Slippery silk. Her heart skipped. Memories usually trickled in slowly. But today, they hit her like a freight train. The text from Tyler, the diner, the shots, the club, the man. Maya sat up, gasping. The room spun violently. She clutched her head, trying to steady the world. "Oh no," she whispered. Her voice was a croak. "Oh no, no, no." She forced her eyes open. This wasn't her apartment. This room was bigger than her entire building. The ceiling was painted with angels. The furniture was gold and velvet. There were floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the royal gardens. She was in the palace. Panic, cold and sharp, flooded her veins. She looked down at herself. She was wearing a t-shirt, a massive, black t-shirt that swallowed her whole. It smelled like cedar and danger. Where was he? She scanned the room. Empty. Then she saw it. On the nightstand. A glass of water and 2 aspirin. And a note. Drink. Just one word. Written in heavy, sharp handwriting. Maya didn't drink. She scrambled out of bed. Her legs felt like jelly. What had she done? She remembered the VIP section. She remembered climbing into a lap. She remembered biting. She clapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. She had bitten the king, King Cyrus, the blood alpha, the man who supposedly ripped throats out for looking at him wrong. She had treated him like a chew toy. A weird, golden pull thrummed in her chest. It was faint, but it was there. Every time she looked toward the heavy double doors, the pull tugged at her ribs. She had to get out. Now, before he came back and executed her. She rushed to the window. It was locked. Of course. She ran to the door. She reached for the handle, her hand trembling so bad she could barely grip it. To her shock, the handle turned before she touched it. The door swung open. And there he was.
He paused in the doorway. She looked like a trapped bird. Her hair was wild, her eyes wide with terror, and she was wearing his shirt. It fell to her mid-thigh, leaving her legs bare. Cyrus felt that familiar tightening in his gut. He had watched her on the security monitors for the last hour, waiting for her to wake up. He had expected her to cry. He had expected her to stay in bed and wait for punishment. She was trying to escape. Going somewhere? He asked. His voice was soft, but in the acoustic perfection of the royal suite, it sounded like a gavel striking a block. She jumped back, colliding with the nightstand. The glass of water wobbled but didn't fall. I, she stammered, her scent spiked with fear, acrid and sharp. But beneath it, that vanilla sweetness remained. He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. Click. I suggest you breathe, Cyrus said, walking slowly toward her. You are turning blue. She took a ragged breath. Please, Your Majesty. I was drunk. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know it was you. You didn't know? He stopped a few feet away from her. He towered over her. You climbed into my lap. You called me yours. And then, he tilted his head to the side, exposing the neck. The bite mark was there. Angry, red, bruising. It wasn't fully healed yet. Alpha blood usually healed instantly, but a mate bite. That left a scar. Her eyes glued to the mark. She paled. I am so sorry, she whispered. I'll leave. I'll go away. I won't tell anyone. Just, please don't kill me. Cyrus studied her. She really believed he was a monster. Kill you? He took another step. She backed up until her legs hit the bed. She had nowhere left to go. Why would I kill the only person who has been brave enough to touch me in 3 centuries? She blinked, confused. Brave? I was stupid. It was the tequila. Was it? He leaned down. He brought his face close to hers. He could feel the heat radiating off her skin. He inhaled deeply. Tell me, little wolf, when you bit me, did it taste like a mistake? She froze. Her pupils dilated. No, she breathed, the truth slipping out before she could stop it. Exactly. He straightened up, crossing his arms over his chest. You claimed me. In front of my court. In front of the city. By law. That makes you responsible for me. Her jaw dropped. Responsible? But, I'm an Omega. I'm a waitress. I can't be responsible for a king. You should have thought of that before you sank your teeth into my neck. Pure horror washed over her face. It was almost comical. So, Cyrus continued, his tone brokering no argument. Here is the situation. You are not leaving. You are moving in. Moving in? She squeaked. Into this room. Into my bed. We will see if this bond is real, or if you are just an assassin sent to drive me mad. And if I refuse? She asked, her voice trembling but her chin lifting just a fraction. Cyrus smirked. There it was. The spine. The fire he had tasted last night. You marked the king, he said, stepping back to give her space, though he didn't want to. You don't get to refuse. He turned toward the door. Breakfast is in 10 minutes. Put on some pants. Or don't. I prefer don't. He walked out, but as the door clicked shut, he touched the bite mark again. The silence in his head was beautiful. He would keep her, even if he had to chain her to his side.
Steam. Clouds of it. Thick and scented like lavender and money. Maya sat in a bathtub that was larger than her entire car. The water was hot, scalding, actually, but she didn't move to turn the gold tap. She needed the heat. She needed to scrub the diner grease, the cheap vodka, and the lingering scent of Tyler's betrayal out of her pores. But mostly, she wanted to scrub away the feeling of him, King Cyrus. The ghost of his touch on her waist felt like a brand. 2 maids moved around the bathroom in silence. They didn't look at her. They didn't speak. They just set out towels and oils with terrifying precision. Maya felt small, smaller than she had ever felt in her life. She was an omega. Her existence was supposed to be invisible, yet here she was, being prepped like a sacrificial lamb for the Wolf King. Eventually, one of the maids stepped forward. She held a bottle of oil that shimmered like liquid gold. "For your skin, miss," the maid said. Her voice was flat, judgmental. Maya took it. Her hands shook. "Thank you." The maid didn't smile. She just looked at Maya's neck where no mark existed and then back to her eyes. The message was clear. You don't belong here. Maya's stomach twisted. They knew. Everyone knew she was a fraud. A drunk mistake. The next hour was torture. They dried her hair until it was a tamed cascade of curls. They dressed her in a gown that was simple but made of fabric so soft it felt like a second skin. It was midnight blue, the color of the king's eyes. She stared at herself in the mirror. The girl staring back looked terrified. She looked like a goldfish dropped into a tank of sharks. "His Majesty is waiting," the maid announced. Maya swallowed hard. Her throat clicked. She forced herself to turn toward the door. Every step felt heavy. She wasn't walking to dinner. She was walking to her execution. Or worse, she was walking to a test she was destined to fail. She opened the door. The hallway stretched out, endless and lined with portraits of dead kings who all looked like they wanted to eat her. The pull in her chest, that golden, annoying thread connecting her to Cyrus, tugged harder with every heartbeat. She took a breath. "Okay," she whispered to the empty hall. "Just don't bite him again."
He hated this room. The private dining hall was too stiff, too quiet. It smelled of lemon polish and centuries of boredom. Cyrus drummed his fingers on the mahogany table. Tap, tap, tap. The food had been sitting for 5 minutes. Steak, rare, bloody, just how he liked it. But he hadn't touched it. He was watching the door. His wolf, Titan, was pacing in his mind again. Not with madness this time, but with anticipation. Where is she? Where is the little biter? He waited. Then, the handle turned. Cyrus stopped tapping. He forced his face into a mask of indifference. He was the king. He did not wait for anyone. The door opened and Maya stepped in. The room seemed to shrink. She looked clean. The diner smell was gone. The alcohol was gone. Now she smelled of lavender and fear, and that underlying note of vanilla that made his mouth water. The blue dress clung to her curves he hadn't noticed when she was wearing his oversized shirt. She froze when she saw him. Her eyes darted to the steak knife in his hand. "Sit," he said. It wasn't a request. She moved, stiffly. She pulled out the chair at the opposite end of the long table. A mile away, Cyrus narrowed his eyes. "No." He pointed to the chair directly to his right. "There." She hesitated. Her pulse fluttered in her neck. He could see the vein jumping. Thump, 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 thump. She walked over and sat down. She didn't look at him. She stared at her empty plate. "Eat," Cyrus commanded. "I'm not hungry," she whispered. "Liar." He could hear her stomach growling. It was a traitorous sound. She flushed pink. I can't pay for this." Cyrus paused. He looked at her. Really looked at her. "Pay for it?" "The dress, the room, the steak." She gestured helplessly. "I make minimum wage plus tips. And I'm pretty sure I lost my job last night. So unless you take payment in IOUs, I can't eat your food." Silence filled the room. He laughed. He actually laughed. It was a rusty sound, scraping his throat. "You think I want your money?" He leaned forward. The predator in him enjoyed the way she leaned back. "You claimed me, Maya. Everything I have is yours. That is the law of the bond. But the bond isn't real," she insisted, finally meeting his gaze. Her eyes were hazel, flecked with gold. "I was drunk. It was a mistake." "Was it?" He dropped his voice. He added a layer of alpha command to it, just a heavy, vibrating resonance that forced wolves to submit. "Look at me and tell me you don't feel it." The command hit her. He saw her pupils dilate. Her body wanted to submit. Her wolf wanted to roll over, but she didn't submit. She clenched her hands into fists on the table. She gritted her teeth. She fought the command. She struggled, sweat beading on her forehead. I feel indigestion. Cyrus blinked. Then, a slow grin spread across his face. She resisted an alpha command. A low-ranking Omega resisted him. The steak suddenly looked far less appetizing than the woman sitting next to him. Eat the steak, Maya, he said, dropping the command and keeping his voice soft. You'll need your strength. For what? She asked suspiciously, picking up her fork. For survival, he replied. My court is a pit of vipers, and you just walked in barefoot.
Dinner had been a blur of terror and confusing heat. Every time he looked at her, her skin tingled. But she had survived. Now, she was trying to find her way back to the room, the royal suite. She turned a corner, her heels clicking on the marble. A shadow stepped out from an alcove, blocking her path. Maya gasped and skidded to a halt. It wasn't Cyrus. It was a woman. She was tall, blonde, and beautiful, in a sharp, icy way. She wore a dress that looked like it cost more than Maya's entire life earnings. This was Lady Alara. Maya recognized her from the magazines. The daughter of the Prime Minister, the woman everyone thought would be queen. So, Alara said. Her voice was like shattered glass. This is the creature. Maya stepped back. Excuse me? Alara stepped closer. She sniffed the air, her nose wrinkling in disgust. You smell like grease and desperation. Did you enjoy your little stunt last night? Marking him while he was vulnerable? I didn't. Do not speak to me, Omega. Alara's eyes flashed red, her wolf surfacing. You are a placeholder, a stain on the crown. Cyrus is keeping you around for amusement, but when he is bored, and he always gets bored, you will be nothing. Her chest ached. The words hit the exact spot where Tyler had stabbed her just 24 hours ago. Just a placeholder. Just you. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was all a joke. But Maya remembered the way Cyrus had looked at her at dinner. He hadn't looked bored. He had looked intense. And she remembered the bite. The taste of him. A growl rose in her throat. It was small, but it was there. I might be nothing, Maya said, her voice trembling but gaining volume. But I'm the one living in his room. Where are you sleeping tonight? Lady Alara? Alara's mouth fell open. Before either could speak, a massive screen on the wall flickered to life. It was the nightly news. Breaking news, the anchor announced. Scandal at the palace. Maya turned. Her heart stopped. There, on the screen, was a photo of her. A horrible photo from her high school yearbook, and next to it, a video of Tyler. Tyler was crying. Fake, crocodile tears streaming down his face. She has a drinking problem, Tyler sobbed into the microphones. I tried to help her, but she ran off. She was out of her mind. She didn't mean to mark the king. She loves me. That mark is a fraud. The text on the bottom of the screen read, Drunk Omega tricks king. Ex-boyfriend speaks out. The room spun. Alara laughed. A cruel, victorious sound. Well, look at that. The clock just struck midnight. Cinderella. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. She didn't see Alara anymore. She only saw Tyler's face, twisting the knife again. He was going to destroy her. She turned and ran. She didn't know where she was going. She just needed to hide. But as she ran, the golden pull in her chest yanked hard. It wasn't pulling her to safety. It was pulling her back to him.
Red. Everything was bleeding red. Cyrus stood in the center of the royal suite. His hands were fists. His knuckles were white. The television screen on the wall was shattered, a spiderweb of cracked glass smoking slightly where he had thrown a crystal tumbler through it. But silence didn't come. Usually, violence quieted the noise. Not tonight. The blood madness was a physical weight, pressing against the back of his eyes. It whispered, kill, tear, burn. It told him everyone was an enemy. It told him the girl was a trap. The king of the wolves fell to his knees, brought low by his own genetics. He needed her. It was a terrifying realization. He didn't just want the Omega. He required her. Without her scent, the anchor was gone. He was drifting into the feral deep. Where was she? He could smell her distress. It was sour, spiking with adrenaline, leaking from the bathroom where she had barricaded herself. He forced himself to stand. He moved toward the door. Every step was a battle against the beast that wanted to rip the door off its hinges. "Maya," he said. His voice was a wreck, a jagged growl. No answer, just the sound of jagged breathing on the other side. "Open the door." "Go away," she sobbed. "I'm leaving. I'm fixing this. I won't let them drag you down." She was crying for him. She was being hunted by the media, mocked by his court, and betrayed by her mate. Yet she was crying because she thought she was ruining his reputation. The red haze receded, just an inch. "I am not asking," Cyrus rasped, leaning his forehead against the cool wood. "Open it, please." The word tasted foreign on his tongue. Kings did not say please. Finally, the lock clicked. The door creaked open. She stood there. Her eyes were puffy. Her face was blotchy. She looked broken. His wolf lunged, not to hurt, to claim. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in the crook of her neck. He inhaled. Vanilla, rain, peace. The red noise vanished instantly. The madness evaporated like mist in the sun. Her body went rigid, then melted against him. Her hands came up, hesitant, resting on his back. "You're shaking," she whispered. "I'm dying," he corrected, his voice muffled against her skin. "Slowly, for 100 years, until yesterday." He pulled back just enough to look at her. He needed her to understand. This wasn't about politics. It wasn't about the trial or the press. "You are not leaving," he said, staring into her hazel eyes. "Let them talk. Let them lie. You are the only thing in this castle that is real." He realized he would burn the entire kingdom to ash before he let her walk out that door.
She felt safe. It didn't make sense. The news anchors were calling her a whore. Tyler was telling the world she was a drunk liar. Lady Ilara wanted her dead. Yet, standing here in the circle of Cyrus's arms, the world felt quiet. He was heavy. He leaned on her as if she were made of steel, not flesh and bone. The terrifying Alpha King was trembling. He needed her. The shame began to recede. "But Tyler," Maya started, her voice small. "He's saying I was drunk. He's saying the bond is fake. If the council believes him, the council is a group of old men who are afraid of their own shadows." Cyrus growled, though he didn't let go of her waist. "They fear me. And now, they fear you." "Me?" Maya let out a dry, humorless laugh. "I'm a waitress, Cyrus. I'm nobody." "You are the woman who brought the blood alpha to his knees," he murmured, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. His touch was rough, calloused, but incredibly gentle. "That makes you the most dangerous person in the city." Her heart skipped. Dangerous? Her? She looked at the shattered TV screen. She thought about Tyler's fake tears. For 2 years, she had tried to be what Tyler wanted. Small, quiet, grateful, and he had discarded her like trash. Why was she still trying to protect him? Why was she hiding in a bathroom crying over a man who sold her out for 5 minutes of fame? Fire bloomed beneath her skin. It wasn't the alcohol this time. It was anger. Pure, hot, cleansing anger. "He's lying," Maya whispered. "I know. He doesn't want me back," she realized, the words tumbling out faster now. "He wants the crown. He thinks if he breaks the bond, he can claim me, and then he gets you. He gets my power," Cyrus finished. "Through you." She pulled back. She looked at the bite mark on his neck. It was dark, jagged, and permanent. She had put it there. Her wolf had chosen him, not Tyler. Him. "I won't let him win," she said. It wasn't a question. Cyrus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was sharp and predatory. But for the first time, it was directed at the world, not at her. "Good," he said, "because war is coming." Before she could answer, a heavy knock pounded on the main door of the suite. "Your Majesty!" It was Jax, the head of the guard. "The council is in emergency session. They are demanding your presence, immediately." Cyrus sighed. He kissed her forehead a quick, searing pressure. "Stay here," he ordered. "Do not open the door for anyone but me." "Cyrus?" she called out as he turned away. He paused. "Give them hell."
The council chamber smelled of fear and old parchment. 12 elders sat around the circular table. They wouldn't look him in the eye. But standing in the center of the room was a man Cyrus recognized from the news. Tyler. The boy, because he was a boy compared to Cyrus, was wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit him. He smelled of sweat and arrogance. Cyrus walked to his throne and sat. He didn't speak. He just waited. Elder Marcus cleared his throat. Sire, this gentleman has brought forth a formal petition. A petition, Cyrus repeated flatly. Tyler stepped forward. He tried to look brave, but his knees were knocking together. She was drunk, Tyler said, his voice cracking. Maya. She's my mate. We've been together for 2 years. She was upset, confused. The alcohol. Get to the point, Cyrus said. I invoke the law of intent. Tyler rushed out. An Omega cannot mark an Alpha without clear, sober intent. The bond is illegal. It must be annulled. The air thickened. Annulment. It meant severing the mystical tie. For the Alpha, it was painful. For the Omega, it was usually fatal. You want me to kill her, Cyrus said softly. That is what an annulment would do to a wolf that small. I want my mate back, Tyler lied. The greed in his eyes was so bright it was blinding. She will survive. She's strong. She is, Cyrus agreed. Stronger than you deserve. The law is clear, sire, Elder Marcus interjected, looking pale. If the bond was formed under intoxication, it is invalid. The public is demanding answers. The kingdom is unstable. Cyrus stood up. Shadows danced between them. The room grew colder. The lights flickered. You speak of laws, Cyrus rumbled, stepping down from the dais. You speak of stability. He stopped inches from Tyler. The boy stopped breathing. The bond is not a contract you can tear up, Cyrus whispered. It is gold. It is blood. And it is mine. We will take it to a trial, Tyler stammered, backing away. The trial of the bond. If she really chose you.
The phone in her hand felt like a live grenade. It had been buzzing for 10 minutes. Unknown number. But she knew who it was. Her wolf knew. Maya sat on the edge of the velvet bed, her legs dangling over the side. The room was dark, lit only by the moonlight spilling across the floor. She swiped accept. She didn't speak. She just held the plastic to her ear and listened. Maya? Baby? Are you there? The voice was sweet. Sickeningly sweet. It was the voice Tyler used when he wanted to borrow money or when he had forgotten a date. I'm here, she whispered. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Flat. Cold. Oh, thank the gods. Tyler rushed on, his breath hitching theatrically. Listen, I know this looks bad. The news, the petition. I had to do it. The council made me. But I have a plan. Just come meet me at the back gate. I have a car. We can go to the coast. We can fix this. The last thread of affection she had held for him snapped. It wasn't a loud noise. It was a quiet, pathetic little pop in her chest. He wasn't worried about her. He wasn't asking if she was hurt. He was asking her to run away so he could annul the bond and take the credit. You don't want to fix it, Maya said, interrupting his rambling. You want the crown. Don't be crazy, Tyler laughed, but the sound was brittle. I want us. You're my girl, remember? You're my little Omega. His little Omega. That's all she was to him. A pet. Something to keep on a shelf until he needed an ego boost. A surge of clarity hit her, sharp and clean. She looked at the door where Cyrus had left hours ago to fight for her. Cyrus, who had growled at the entire world to keep her safe. I'm not your girl, Maya said. Her voice didn't shake this time. And I'm not running. Maya, listen to me. No. You listen. You wanted a trial? You got one. I'll see you in the arena. You'll die, Tyler hissed, his mask slipping. The sweetness vanished, replaced by the ugly, sneering tone she recognized from their arguments. You're weak, Maya. You can't fight. You'll be dead in a minute. Maybe, she said, looking at her reflection in the mirror. The girl staring back looked pale, but her eyes were burning gold. But I'd rather die his queen than live as your nothing. She hung up. She stood up. She walked to the closet. She didn't reach for the silk dresses. She grabbed a pair of leggings and a tank top. She tied her hair back. She looked at her hands. They were small, soft, but they could make a fist. The door opened. Cyrus stood there. He looked exhausted. He smelled of council chambers and suppressed rage. He saw the phone on the bed. He saw the clothes. Who was it? He asked. Nobody, Maya replied. She walked past him, heading for the door. Where are you going? The gym, she said, not looking back. If I have to fight for my life tomorrow, you better teach me how to bite.
The royal training pit smelled of old blood and fresh sawdust. It was a brutal place. A concrete circle surrounded by iron bars, buried deep beneath the palace. Cyrus stood in the center, stripped to his waist. His skin glistened with sweat. Opposite him, Maya panted. Her tank top was soaked. Her knees were scraped. She looked like a stiff breeze could knock her over. Again, Cyrus ordered. "I can't," she gasped, bracing her hands on her knees. "I'm gonna puke. Tyler won't care if you puke. The challenger won't care. They will tear your throat out while you catch your breath." It was cruel. He knew it was cruel. Every time he knocked her down, a piece of his own soul cracked. He wanted to wrap her in blankets and hide her in a tower, but that would kill her. The only way to save her was to break her now, so she wouldn't break tomorrow. Still, his wolf whined. "Protect her. Do not hurt. Get up," he growled, pushing the sympathy down. Maya looked up. Her hair was plastered to her face. There was blood on her lip where she had bitten it. Instead of crying, she wiped the blood away with the back of her hand and stood up. "Okay," she said. "Come on." She lunged. It was slow, clumsy. He sidestepped her easily. He grabbed her arm and twisted, pinning her against the wall. "Dead," he whispered in her ear. "You tried to overpower me. You are an Omega. You cannot win with strength." She struggled against his grip, frustration radiating off her in waves of heat. "Then how do I win? You're a giant. Everyone is a giant compared to me. You win by being what you are," Cyrus said, pressing closer. "Small, fast, vicious." He let her go and stepped back. "Don't aim for the throat. You can't reach it. Aim for the things they need. Eyes, knees, tendons." He tapped his own knee. "Break the foundation, and the tower falls." She watched him, her chest heaving. She was processing, learning. "Again," he said. This time, she didn't lunge. She waited. She circled him. Her eyes dropped to his legs. Cyrus moved to grab her. She didn't fight his grip. She dropped. She went limp, sliding under his arm like liquid. Before he could react, she kicked backward, hard. Her heel connected with the side of his knee. It didn't break anything, he was too strong, but it stung. It surprised him. He stumbled. Just a fraction. She scrambled up his back. She didn't try to punch him. She wrapped her arm around his face, digging her fingers into his eyes, and sank her teeth into his shoulder. He roared, partly in shock, partly in pride, and flipped her over his head. She landed on the mat with a thud. Wham! Silence filled the gym. Cyrus stood over her, his chest heaving. He waited for her to stay down, but a sound cut through the quiet. A laugh. A breathless, wheezing laugh. Maya rolled over. She looked up at him, grinning through the sweat. "I got you," she wheezed. "I tasted blood." Cyrus looked at his shoulder. There were fresh teeth marks right over the old ones. She had drawn blood. Something inside him shifted. He dropped to his knees beside her. He touched her face, smearing dirt on her cheek. "Yes," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You got me." She wasn't a warrior. She was a survivor. And for the first time since the challenge was issued, Cyrus thought she might actually live through the sunrise.
The night air was cool on the balcony, but Maya's skin was burning. Every muscle in her body ached. Her knuckles were bruised. Her lip was swollen. She leaned against the stone railing, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, people were sleeping. Somewhere out there, Tyler was probably planning his victory speech. She felt a warmth at her back before she touched it. Cyrus didn't speak. He just moved behind her, wrapping his massive arms around her waist, pulling her flush against his chest. He was a solid wall of heat. "You should sleep," he murmured into her hair. "I can't," Maya said. "If I close my eyes, I see the arena. Then keep them open." He rested his chin on the top of her head. They stood there for a long time, listening to the distant sounds of the city and the closer, steady rhythm of each other's hearts. In the stillness, Maya realized this might be the last time she ever felt this. The last time she felt safe. "Cyrus? She turned in his arms so she could look up at him. The moonlight turned the sharp angles of his face into something softer. He looked tired, old, lonely. If I don't make it tomorrow," she started, her voice trembling. "Don't," he cut her off. His eyes flashed. "Do not say it." "No, you have to listen," she insisted. placing her small hand on his chest, right over his heart. She could feel it beating. Thump, thump, heavy and strong. "If I don't make it, I need you to know." He stared at her, his jaw tight. "Know what?" "That I didn't mark you because I was drunk," she whispered. The truth hung in the air between them, fragile as glass. "I drank the vodka, sure, but my wolf. She saw you. She saw how sad you were. She saw that you were just as alone as I was." His eyes widened. He stopped breathing. "I marked you because I wanted to," she finished. "And I would do it again, even if I knew it would end like this." The space between them crackled. Cyrus looked at her like she was a ghost, like she was a miracle he didn't believe in. "Maya," he choked out. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. It was a collision. He kissed her like he was trying to breathe for her, his hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, deeper. She melted into him. She opened for him. She tasted the iron of his control snapping. She felt his fear bleed through the bond. It was vast and dark. He was terrified of losing her. She wrapped her arms around his neck, holding on for dear life. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised against his lips, though she didn't know if she could keep that promise. "You better not," he growled, lifting her up until her feet left the ground. "Because if death tries to take you, I will hunt it down and kill it too." He carried her back inside, away from the cold, away from the dawn. For tonight, the arena didn't exist. There was only the king, the Omega, and the bond that burned between them like a star.
The arena tasted of iron. It was an ancient taste, a mix of rusted metal gates and centuries of spilled blood that had soaked into the sand. Cyrus stood in the royal box, his hands gripping the stone railing so hard the granite turned to dust beneath his fingertips. Below him, the crowd roared. It was a sea of faces, thirsty, cruel, waiting for a show. They chanted his name, but it felt like a mockery. Tyler stood in the center of the ring. He looked small, pathetic. He was bouncing on the balls of his feet, grinning up at the royal box. Cyrus narrowed his eyes. The boy wasn't wearing fighting leathers. He was wearing a suit. A hush fell over the stadium as the elder of the council stepped forward with a microphone. "The trial of the bond shall commence," the elder bellowed. "The challenger, Tyler of the Southern Pack, versus the accused, Maya the Omega." The crowd screamed, but Tyler raised a hand. "Wait," Tyler's voice echoed through the stadium speakers. "I am a lover, not a fighter. By the ancient law of proxy, I choose a champion to fight in my stead." The atmosphere in the box turned instantly cold. Cyrus slammed his fist onto the railing. "No," he roared, his voice drowned out the crowd. "That law has been dead for 50 years. It is still written, Your Majesty," Elder Marcus said smoothly from behind him. "If the challenger is of beta rank, he may choose a proxy to ensure a fair fight against a magically enhanced opponent." Magically enhanced. They were using the bond, the very thing they called fake, as an excuse to bring in a ringer. Then came the grinding sound of the heavy iron gates opening on the far side of the arena. The ground shook, literally shook. Out of the darkness stepped a nightmare. It was a man, but barely. He stood 7 feet tall, his muscles corded and unnatural, veins popping against grayish skin. He smelled of sulfur and illegal combat stimulants. Cain, the butcher of the North, a mercenary who killed alphas for sport. "This is murder," Cyrus snarled, turning to the council. His eyes bled fully black. "She is an Omega. You are putting her in a cage with a monster. She claimed a king," the elder replied coldly. "If she is worthy of the crown, she will survive. If not, then the bond was a lie." Cyrus looked back at the arena. The gate on the other side opened. Maya walked out. She looked microscopic. She was wearing the leggings and tank top from last night. Her hair was tied back. She looked up at the royal box. She looked for him. Cyrus felt a fear he had not known in 300 years. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of watching her die. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't move. The law bound him to this spot. If he interfered, the royal guard would execute her on the spot for forfeiting. He was the most powerful creature on earth, yet he was forced to watch his heart walk into a meat grinder.
The sand was cold against her bare feet. Maya walked into the light. The noise hit her first, a wall of screaming, booing, and hissing. They hated her. To them, she wasn't a person. She was a thief who had stolen their king. She tried to find Cyrus in the stands. She saw him, high up, a dark figure against the stone. He looked rigid, frozen. Then, she saw what was waiting for her. Her stomach plummeted. Tyler wasn't there. Instead, a mountain of muscle and scars stood in the center of the ring. The man, no. The beast grinned at her. His teeth were filed into points. "Proxy!" the announcer screamed. Maya stopped walking, her knees knocked together. This wasn't a fight. This was an execution. Panic clawed at her throat. She wanted to run. She wanted to curl into a ball and beg. But she heard Tyler's laugh. She saw him on the sidelines, safe and smug, waiting for her to be torn apart so he could claim his prize. She remembered the training. Aim for the knees. Break the foundation. She took a breath. She forced her hands into fists. She wasn't fighting a mountain. She was fighting for the right to exist. "Fight!" the elder shouted. The giant lunged. He was fast for his size. Terrifyingly fast. Maya moved on muscle memory. She dropped low, sliding under his massive swinging arm just like she had practiced in the pit. The wind from his fist ruffled her hair. She scrambled back, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Come here, little snack," the giant grunted. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. He charged again. This time, Maya didn't run. She waited, just like Cyrus taught her. She feinted left. The giant swung. She dodged right. She saw his knee, the target. She kicked. Hard. Her foot connected with a sickening crack. The giant roared. He stumbled. For a second, just a split second, hope flared in her chest. She had done it. She had hurt him. But the pain only made him faster. Before she could retreat, a hand the size of a shovel clamped around her ankle. "Gotcha," he sneered. Maya screamed as she was yanked into the air. The world spun. He slammed her into the ground. Crunch. The air left her lungs. Her shoulder screamed. White-hot pain exploded behind her eyes. She tasted copper. She tried to roll, to scramble away, but a heavy boot landed on her ribs. Snap. She gasped, but no air came. She lay in the dirt, staring up at the blinding floodlights. The crowd was cheering. They were cheering for her death. She couldn't move. Her body was broken. Tyler's voice floated through the ringing in her ears. "I told you, Maya. You're nothing. Just a little omega." Maybe he was right. She was just a waitress. She was just a girl who got drunk and made a mistake. Darkness began to creep into the edges of her vision. It was soft, inviting. It would be so easy to just let go.
The sound of her bones breaking was louder than the crowd. It echoed in Cyrus's chest, shattering his own ribs. He watched her fall. He watched the light leave her eyes. He watched the monster raise a fist for the final, killing blow. "No," Cyrus whispered. He gripped the stone railing. The granite exploded. Dust and rubble rained down on the nobles below. He didn't care about the law. He didn't care about the crown. He was going to jump. He was going to tear that arena apart brick by brick until everyone who had hurt her was dead. He placed his hands on the ledge to vault over. But he felt it. The bond. It was faint. A flickering candle in a hurricane. But it was there. She wasn't dead. She was fading. But she was holding on. She was waiting for him. If he jumped, the guards would shoot her. He couldn't save her with his body. So, he reached out with his mind. He closed his eyes. He pushed past the blood madness, past the rage, past the centuries of walls he had built around his soul. He poured everything he was, his strength, his will, his dominance, into that thin golden thread connecting them. Maya. He didn't speak it aloud. He shouted it into the void of her mind. "Look at me." In the arena below, the girl stirred. The giant hesitated, his fist hovering in the air. "You are not nothing," Cyrus projected, the words burning through the psychic link. "You are mine. You claimed me. Do not let him take that from you." He opened his eyes. He stared down at her broken form, willing her to breathe. "Get up, little wolf. Bite back." Her fingers twitched in the sand. The giant laughed. "Stay down, girl. It's over." Maya lifted her head. She coughed, spitting blood onto the sand. Then, she looked up. Not at the giant. At the royal box. Her eyes locked with Cyrus's. Even from this distance, he saw it. Her eyes weren't hazel anymore. They were glowing a bright, lethal gold. And she was smiling.
The pain didn't stop, but it changed. A moment ago, her broken ribs felt like knives twisting in her chest. Now, they felt like fire. Not a burning fire, but a forging fire. The heat spread from her chest, down her spine, and into her fingertips. It was the Bond. It was Cyrus. The arena went silent, not because the crowd stopped screaming, but because Maya stopped listening. The only thing she could hear was the steady, thundering rhythm of the king's heart, beating in sync with her own. Get up. She planted her hands in the blood-soaked sand. Her arms trembled, then locked. She pushed. The giant, Cain, stopped laughing. He took a step back, his heavy boots crunching on the gravel. He looked confused. He had just crushed her. She should be dead. Instead, she was standing. Maya wiped the blood from her chin. She didn't feel like a waitress anymore. She didn't feel like an Omega. She felt like a raw nerve exposed to the wind. Without warning, Cain roared and charged. He was clumsy now, angry that his toy wasn't broken. He swung a fist the size of a sledgehammer aimed directly at her skull. Before she could move, her body moved for her. She didn't duck. She stepped into the swing. It was insane. It was suicide. But as his arm came down, she was already inside his guard. She was small. He couldn't hit what was pressed against his own chest. With every heartbeat, the golden energy surged. Maya grabbed the thick leather of his belt, used his own momentum, and swung herself around his back. She was a spider climbing a wall. He thrashed, reaching over his shoulder to grab her. She didn't let go. She climbed higher, ignoring the scream of her fractured ribs. She wrapped her legs around his thick neck. He gagged, stumbling forward. Now, she didn't punch. She didn't scratch. She buried her face in the junction of his neck and shoulder, right where the armor ended. She didn't bite to mark. She bit to end it. Her jaw locked. The pressure was immense. She tasted the sour tang of combat stimulants in his blood. Cain screamed a high, terrified sound that didn't belong to a monster. He fell backward, trying to crush her. She released him a split second before impact. She rolled away, agile as a cat. Cain hit the ground with a thud that shook the teeth in her head. He didn't get up. He lay there, clutching his neck, gasping for air. A stunned silence fell over the arena. Maya stood up. She swayed, dizzy and broken, but upright. She looked at the crowd. They were gaping at her. The weak Omega had just taken down a giant. Then, she looked at Tyler. He was standing on the sidelines, his face pale as a sheet. He looked like he was going to be sick. Maya didn't smile. She just stared at him, her eyes burning gold. She had won.
The roar that erupted from the stadium was deafening. It wasn't a cheer. It was a shockwave. Cyrus didn't hear it. He only saw her. She was standing over the fallen champion, her chest heaving, blood matting her curls. She looked wild. She looked magnificent. She looked like a queen. The law was satisfied. The bond was proven. With the bond proven, the restraint that had held Cyrus to the royal box snapped. He didn't care about protocol. He didn't care about the stairs. He vaulted over the stone railing. It was a 20-foot drop. He landed in the sand in a crouch, the impact dusting his boots. The royal guards scrambled, shouting orders, but he ignored them. He only had one destination. He marched across the arena. The remaining proxy fighter, Cain, was groaning in the dirt. Cyrus stepped over him without a second glance. If the man tried to stand, Cyrus would rip his head off. Maya saw him coming. Her gold eyes widened. She took a stumbling step toward him. "Cyrus," she breathed. He reached her. He didn't care that she was covered in sweat and another man's blood. He wrapped his arms around her, lifting her off her feet, burying his face in her neck. "You crazy, foolish, beautiful wolf," he growled against her skin. "I thought I lost you. I told you," she whispered, her voice a wrecked rasp. "I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, the world was perfect. The crowd was screaming his name now. The council was defeated. Tyler was cowering. But then, the hair on the back of Cyrus's neck stood up. It wasn't the bond. It was instinct. The honed, paranoid instinct of a predator who had survived assassination attempts for 3 centuries. Something was wrong. Cyrus lifted his head. He scanned the crowd. The nobles were clapping. The commoners were cheering. However, in the lower stands, near the exit tunnel, one figure wasn't clapping. A man in a hooded maintenance uniform. He wasn't looking at the fight. He was looking at Cyrus, and he was raising something. Not a camera. A long, black shape. A barrel. Sunlight glinted off the scope. The noise of the crowd faded to a dull roar. It wasn't Tyler. Tyler was a pawn. This was a hit. A professional assassin sent by the rival kingdom to take the king out, while his guard was down, while he was distracted by love. "No!" Cyrus roared. He moved to shield her. He started to turn, to put his back to the shooter, but he was too slow.
She felt his panic before she heard his shout. One moment, Cyrus was holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The next, his body went rigid. His scent spiked with terror not for himself, but for her. He spun her around. He was trying to push her behind him, but Maya saw it. Over his shoulder, in the stands. The flash of light, the black hole of a muzzle. It was aimed right at Cyrus's heart. Because of the bond, she felt his intention. He was going to take the bullet. He was going to die to save her, right after she had fought through hell to stay with him. No. Her body moved on instinct. She didn't think about the pain in her ribs. She didn't think about the future. She grabbed the lapels of his jacket. Instead of letting him push her back, she used his own strength against him. She yanked him down and threw herself into the space he had been trying to occupy. "Maya, no!" he screamed. The sound tore out of his throat, raw and terrified. She saw the muzzle flash. A tiny bloom of fire in the shadows. The air cracked. Something hit her. It didn't hurt at first. It felt like a punch. A hard, heavy punch to the center of her chest. The impact threw her back against Cyrus. The blue sky above the arena turned gray. She looked down. There was a hole in her tank top. A red flower was blooming there, spreading fast, soaking into the fabric. She looked up at Cyrus. His face was a mask of pure horror. His eyes were wide, black pits of despair. "Did I?" She coughed, and blood bubbled past her lips. "Did I win?" She couldn't hear his answer. She couldn't feel her legs. As the darkness rushed in to claim her, the only thing she felt was the bond. It wasn't a thin thread anymore. It was screaming. It was a golden siren wailing in the dark. And then, nothing.
The world ended. It didn't end with a bang or a whimper. It ended with the splash of red against Maya's pale skin. Cyrus caught her before she hit the sand. His knees hit the ground hard enough to crack the bedrock beneath the arena floor. He pulled her against his chest, his hands frantically pressing over the wound. Blood. So much blood. It was hot, sticky, and escaping between his fingers no matter how hard he pressed. Maya. He tried to say her name, but his voice was gone. The bond between them didn't just snap. It detonated. Her sacrifice in Omega, giving her life for an Alpha, triggered something ancient. A shockwave of pure, blinding gold light exploded outward from her chest. It knocked the guards flat. It shattered the glass of the royal box. It silenced the screaming crowd. The golden bond. The myth. It was real. But she wasn't breathing. A sound tore out of Cyrus that wasn't human. It was a howl of such raw, agonizing grief that people in the stands covered their ears. Then, the grief turned to ice, and the ice turned to fire. His vision went red. Not the red of the blood madness that made him mindless, but the cold, sharp crimson of absolute clarity. He looked up. He saw the assassin in the stands, reloading the rifle. Without warning, Cyrus handed Maya's limp body to Jax, who had just slid into the sand beside him. "Keep her alive," Cyrus ordered. The command didn't come from his throat. It slammed into Jax's mind with the force of a hammer. Then, Cyrus shifted. He didn't just turn into a wolf. He erupted. Bones cracked and reshaped in a split second. Fur black as a void burst from his skin. He grew, and grew. He stood 10 feet tall at the shoulder. The dire Alpha, the creature of nightmares. The assassin saw him. The man dropped the rifle. He tried to run. In a blur of motion, Cyrus crossed the arena in a single bound. He didn't run. He flowed like a shadow. He leaped into the stands, crushing stone benches into powder. The assassin screamed. It was short. Cyrus didn't just kill him. He erased him. The crowd screamed in terror, scrambling back. They expected the monster to turn on them next. They expected the beast to rampage. Instead, the massive black wolf turned. He looked down at the arena floor, where a small, broken girl lay in the sand. He leaped back down, landing softly, despite his size. He shifted back to human form in midair, landing on his knees beside her. He didn't care that he was naked. He didn't care that the world was watching. He ripped his wrist open with his own teeth. "Drink," he pleaded. He pressed his bleeding wrist to Maya's pale lips. The alpha blood, potent, magical, life-giving, dripped into her mouth. Nothing happened. Despair clawed at his throat. "Please," he whispered, tears mixing with the blood on her face. "You promised. You said you weren't going anywhere." Tyler was standing nearby, held by 2 guards. The boy was shaking, his face gray with shock. He watched the king beg. "Don't you dare leave me alone in this," Cyrus choked out. Then, he felt it, a flutter. Like a butterfly wing beating against a hurricane. Her throat moved. She swallowed. The golden bond flared again, softer this time. It wrapped around her wound, knitting flesh and bone together with visible light. The bullet was pushed out of her skin, clinking onto the sand. Her chest hitched. She took a breath, a ragged, wet gasp of air. Cyrus collapsed forward, resting his forehead against hers. He sobbed. He shook with the force of it. Maya's eyelashes fluttered. She opened her eyes. The gold in them was dim, but it was there. She looked at him. She lifted a trembling hand to touch his face. "You're loud," she rasped. Cyrus laughed. It was a broken, hysterical sound. "I'm sorry," he whispered, kissing her blood-stained fingers. "I'll be quieter." "No," she smiled weakly. "Roar for me." He looked up at the crowd, at the council, at Tyler. Tyler flinched as the king's gaze landed on him. "Get him out of my sight," Cyrus said. His voice was calm now, terrifyingly calm. "Exile. If he sets foot in this kingdom again, I will not be as merciful as she was." Tyler didn't argue. He slumped, dragged away by the guards, his ambition turning to ash in his mouth. Cyrus picked Maya up. He cradled her against his chest, shielding her from the world. "Let's go home," he murmured.
1 week later, the balcony was cool against her bare arms. Maya stood looking out at the city. It looked different now, or maybe she was just seeing it with different eyes. She touched the spot on her chest. There was a scar there, a starburst of silver skin right over her heart. The maids had offered to cover it with makeup. They had brought high-necked dresses to hide it. Maya had refused. Eventually, the heavy wooden doors opened. Cyrus walked in. He looked different too. The darkness that used to hang over him like a shroud was gone. He looked tired, yes, but light. He was holding something. A crown. It wasn't the heavy, jeweled monstrosity the old queens wore. It was simple. A band of gold woven to look like vines. He stopped beside her. "Are you ready?" he asked. Maya looked down at the courtyard below. Thousands of people were waiting. They weren't chanting for blood anymore. They were waiting for their queen. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Good," Cyrus smiled, stepping behind her. "Fear keeps you sharp." He placed the crown on her head. It felt heavy, but right, like it belonged there. "You aren't just an Omega anymore, Maya," he whispered, his hands resting on her waist, his chin on her shoulder. "You are the Alpha's heart. You are the only thing that matters." She turned in his arms. She looked up at him, the man who had been a monster, and the monster who had become her man. She reached up and traced the bite mark on his neck. It was healed, but the scar remained. A matching set. "I have a question," she said softly. "Anything? Do I still have to pay for the steak?" Cyrus threw his head back and laughed, a rich, booming sound that echoed off the palace walls. "Consider the debt settled," he said, leaning down. As their lips met, the crowd below saw them. A roar of approval went up, shaking the very foundations of the city. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was the tequila. But as Maya kissed her king, she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't just the girl who marked him. She was the woman who saved him, and she was never letting go.